What's up, y'all? Welcome to the YouTube channel. I am Monique Melton, the founder of the Shine Bright School, and I'm really excited to get into this conversation with you today. But before we go any further, I want to remind you to hit the subscribe button, y'all. Leave a lovely comment if we still have the comments on, because we never know. We might have to turn them off sometimes because I feel like people say a lot of things that shouldn't be said to anyone when you do. So, anyway, but I'm glad you're here. What we're going to be talking about today is why is anti-racism for kids so hard? And not so much for kids, but for the adults in the kids' lives. Specifically, why is it so hard for adults to equip children with anti-racism tools? So let's get into this conversation, y'all. Now, here's the thing. I've said this in our intro video. In case you missed it, definitely make sure you check out our welcome video for the Shine Bright School. Is we're just giving you a little bit of a sample of a larger conversation that's happening within the work that we're doing at the Shine Bright School. But even still, remembering that it's important that these conversations are just a tip of the iceberg. There's always more room for exploration. There's always plenty of nuance that we need to explore. And there's always an opportunity for you to get more curious about what you're doing and see what can you take from today and apply it, but also what can you do to learn a bit more, whether that's a book or a podcast, learning from us at the Shine Bright School. Don't leave it here. Okay. All right. So I want to just give you three reasons. This is not an exhaustive list, but I want to give you three reasons why equipping children with anti-racism tools for adults is so challenging. It can be so challenging for adults. Here's the first one. There's this assumption, unfortunately, that children who are non-Black, especially, are too fragile to handle it, that they somehow are going to no longer be able to enjoy their childhood, their innocence will be stripped away if they are equipped with tools to help them learn how to identify and eliminate racism, equipped with tools to help them have a better understanding of their commitment and their responsibility that they can have in the world to ensure that all of us can live freely and fully in our humanity. Children can learn this very young, and obviously, over time, they build upon these skills. But to assume that they're too fragile to learn about their responsibility that they have to other human beings in the world is such a disservice. Also, it really reinforces the type of beliefs that they are learning through white supremacy and the socialization of white culture. So if you have a child that is learning that the world revolves around them and that their feelings about people's history and people's lived experiences are more important than actually centering those experiences and ensuring that those realities that are causing harmful outcomes for folks are shifted and changed so that they can be more affirming to their humanity. If they are led to believe that the world is as it is because somehow people have deserved that, whether that be you are receiving the benefits and the access and the opportunities because you have somehow deserved it or you are inherently more deserving of it. And therefore, then people who are experiencing oppression have somehow done something to deserve that. When you begin to learn those type of messages, it makes it really challenging for you to have compassion. It makes it really challenging for you to acknowledge your own privilege and your own identity and the ways in which you benefit at the expense of others. Children can learn very young about these things in age appropriate ways, of course. They're not too fragile to do it. I think the idea that telling them about this is just going to blow up their reality, that blow up their world and make them just see things in a different way. But that's the point. We want them to see things in a different way. We want them to see the truth about the world around them, not to scare them, but to inform them and to help prepare them to navigate in the world differently than chances are their parents and generations before them, if we just shield them in a way to make them think that the world is one thing that it isn't, it's such a rude awakening when they begin to actually see the world in the ways that are more accurate to the lived experiences of people beyond themselves. So it's really important that children learn in an age appropriate way and incrementally how to identify and eliminate racism, and avoiding the conversations will not help them. So, this assumption that they're too young to handle it is a disservice to them. And it's a disservice to their peers and to their community. And we don't have to do it that way. The second reason why it can be really challenging for adults to equip children with tools for anti racism is that there's an assumption that those children will somehow just acquire the necessary information like osmosis or maybe observation, or just somehow they'll just know. That's so far from the truth. I don't even know if it can be any further. Because did that work for you? When you think about the things that you are learning about your identity, the things that you're learning about race and class and gender and all these things, did you just one day appear with this knowledge, or did you seek it out? Did you have people who helped guide you along the way? Did you have resources that you began to explore and to navigate? Were there people who intentionally brought these ideas to you to help you unpack and explore? If you're thinking that they're going to just somehow pick it up, the thing is, what they are going to somehow pick up very directly and indirectly is the socialization of white supremacy. And the vehicle of that is through white culture. And so, what you then want to do is counter that socialization that is everywhere with a socialization towards and a posture towards liberation. That is something that has to be done very deliberately. That is something that has to be done very intentionally and very consistently. And there's a way to go about doing it without it being overwhelming or just impossible to grasp or understand. It's just as you would do when you're trying to teach them about anything that's really important to you. So if you practice a religion, for example, chances are, if that religious practice is really important to your family, it's a core value, you don't leave it up to just chance that your child will learn the values that you hold near and dear. Instead, you introduce them to them very directly, but you also model those values. You also put them into environments where they can learn more about it from other people. They can practice, they can experience. You take on a very deliberate and intentional approach to socializing your child around your core beliefs. And so when anti-racism work, when Black liberation work is at a core belief for you, when it's a core value for you, that is going to require you to take on an intentional set of practices, behavior, customs, and such to ensure that your child understands what this actually means and how to do this and how this shows up in the world. And they need to see that in multiple ways, just as much as you would go about it, teaching them anything else that is of value to you. This leads me to my third one. And this one, hey, you just got to check in with yourself and say, all right, here's the opportunity for me to learn and grow. I'll take it or I'll leave it. And this third one of the reasons why a lot of adults struggle with equipping children with anti racism tools is because they themselves do not have those tools or don't know enough about those tools that they can share them with the children in their lives. If you're not dealing with your own internalized superiority, if you're not dealing with your own anti-Blackness that's showing up, if you're not dealing with your own systems of oppression that you are perpetuating and upholding and understanding and all those things, if you're not dealing with that in a very intentional, deliberate way, it's going to be really challenging. One, for you to even just identify the way that you are doing it and help your child identify with for themselves as well. It's going to be very hard to do that if you're not in a constant and a consistent place of interrogating and being curious and exploring and learning and growing, unlearning, unpacking all those things. So if you don't have a practice with, that's going to be really challenging. It's just like you were trying to teach your child a second language or third language or whatever the case may be. If you aren't learning that language, it's going to mean that someone else is going to have to teach it to them. Someone else who knows that language, understands that language. And that means they're going to have to spend a lot of time with that person or with the different materials to help them learn it. And that's very much possible. But they also spend probably a lot of their time with you. So the places where they're going to be practicing that new language, where they spend a lot of their time, won't really be accessible or helpful for them because you haven't equipped yourself with the tools necessary. Does it mean that they won't learn it? Of course not. There are certainly ways that you can incorporate that knowledge and education without you yourself having to have it, but it can help make it that much more sustainable and substantial. And it can allow it to be something that connects the two of you and allows you to grow and to challenge each other and to learn and process this work together. So I think that it's really important that you understand that you are going to be their first teacher. You're going to be the one that they're going to be looking to as someone who is modeling what it actually looks like to live this work out. If you yourself are really struggling with that, or you're not intentionally building a practice and you're not gathering those tools, it's going to be really challenging for your child to take something that perhaps you're saying to them is important, but to apply that because they're not really being exposed to adults in their life that are actually living it out. There you go. All right, y'all. 3 examples of why anti-racism work is so challenging for adults to equip children with. And just to recap those really quickly, there's an assumption that they won't be able to handle it, which is just not true. And then there also is the assumption that they'll figure it out somewhere down the line. And then also, you're not dealing with your own anti racism work and putting that into practice. So, if you identify with any of these, obviously this is not an exhaustive list and there's more to these things that are even on this list. If you're like, you know what, I definitely want to better equip myself so that I can be doing this work and building a practice in this work because it's my responsibility, but also to model it to the children in my life, then we have so many resources available in the Shine Bright School that you can get started with today. Most of them are self-paced. We have a very lovely, supportive, and interactive community. We have resources to help you get started. So I definitely encourage you to check out the Shine Bright School where you can learn and grow and take action in community. It's a global community too, y'all. We also encourage you to check out the podcast. Obviously, there are other resources outside of what we're creating. So find something that works for you. Okay. Thank you so much. Again, remember to subscribe to the channel. Thank you for being here. And as always, keep shining brighter together.